addition, that is our chair, is unavailable today. So we need the matter of a temporary chair to be appointed. And I have a great idea. That should be me. Is there a motion?
I will move that Alex serve as temporary chair for this meeting.
Is there a second? Who is that masked man? There's a motion and a second to name me as temporary chair of the meeting just for purposes of today's business. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. With that, then, I will call on us to follow our regular agenda, which is to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting, of course, was properly noticed under Ohio's Sunshine Law, so we will conduct it in that fashion. So the first order of business is the approval of our board meeting minutes from our July 14th, 2020 meeting. Those minutes were circulated via email to the group.
Mr. Chair, I do have one item of concern about these minutes.
Sure.
A statement at the bottom of the second page, which says, it was noted that the board is currently bound by the Secretary of State directive as to the specific location of absentee ballot drop boxes. I don't believe that's the case. We are bound by a directive that says we need to have one at the Board of Elections, as all counties are bound. But I don't believe we have any directive from the Secretary of State beyond that point, and so I don't think this is an accurate statement of where things are.
Given that we voted 3-1 to investigate the possibility of different ones, and that we had some communication from the Secretary to the Attorney General on this question, he's probably right. We probably maybe aren't bound, but I'm curious to know what staff thinks.
It was just based on a review of the transcript as well as the tape recording of the last meeting.
Did one of us say that? Maybe if one of us said it, it might clarify. Does anybody remember?
I think we'd have to go back and review.
I mean, if it said that one of the members
That would,
that,
yeah, one of the members opined, that I'd be content with that. But to state as a specific fact that that's true, I just don't believe.
and I don't like to put anybody on the spot, but I mean, can we agree that at this point, I'm not sure we have an answer to that question? Do you?
At this point, we do not.
We do not.
Right, we would have to look at it.
So Caleb's concern is legitimate in the sense that if a member said it and they're wrong, that's happened lots on this board, but you're right, the fact that it reads the way it does, and that is that it's noted that it is so, maybe isn't an accurate depiction. So
That's right.
would you be comfortable if we amended it to say a member?
That would be fine, yes.
Yeah. Caleb said it.
It was probably me who said it.
Yeah, I think it was. How about Mr. Gerhardt suggested that the board is currently bound by? Are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
So I'm going to make a notation here. Caleb, does that meet your?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
I'll read it in its entirety so we can all get it right, if that's okay.
And with that change, I'll move that we approve the minutes.
So it's clear then, we're under section 8 in the other business section of the meeting minutes, the last paragraph on the printed page that I'm reviewing. It should now read, a discussion regarding this proposal ensued, period. And then we're going to change "it was noted" to the words, Mr. Gerhardt suggested that the board is currently bound by Secretary of State directive.
That's fine.
Okay, with that change to the meeting minutes, first of all, why don't we make a motion that it be changed? You're making said motion?
I make that,
I'll
we make
second
that
it.
change, yes.
Any discussion on that change? All in favor of the change?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Then, as changed and amended, I'll accept the motion to accept the meeting minutes as amended.
Yeah, I made that motion.
All right. Thank you. I'm making two motions, so it's clear. Maybe it's already clear. Anyway, any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, register voter challenges are next on our agenda. I know there were several filed. Sherry?
Yes, Chuck Eckert, our registration administrator, is available to present the registration challenges, and also Mr. Janis, the challenger, is also present.
Chuck, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
We will begin with the spreadsheet challenge voters July 20th, 2020. Two challenges were filed by Mr. Janis on July 20th. On July 22nd, letters were sent to the two voters along with a copy of the challenge, and we included a registration form. We have received no communication from either of the voters, and the mail has yet to be returned as undeliverable.
All right, these are just, at the moment, we're just looking at the two that are
On the spreadsheet, July 20th, yes.
Correct, yeah. Just 1 minute here. All right, why don't we give Mr. Janis an opportunity to, since they're his challenges, to be heard. Mr. Janis, good afternoon, sir. You filed, or good morning. Sorry, I'm so used to afternoons. It's, you filed a couple of, you filed several, but at the moment, the board's zeroing in on the challenges at the address 4119 Lansdowne Avenue. Will you raise your right hand to be sworn, sir? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. What do you want to tell us about these two challenges, sir?
Shortly prior to the filing of the challenges by me with this office, in a casual conversation with an area resident, I was made aware that no one was, these two people, also no one was currently residing at that address. Based on that and some other information, I drove by that residence several times prior to the date of filing and up through today. I observed no cars, the windows are closed, no air conditioning was on, there were no curtains on the window, all the furniture were removed from the inside of the house. The resident that had the resident was a resident of Deer Park, Ohio, had in their previous conversation with me indicated by mere happenstance they saw some people out in the front yard that they did not recognize of this particular address one day. They went over, and it was a representative of the firm that had recently purchased it, the property. That representative allowed them to enter the house. They told me that there was no human beings living there, all the furniture was gone. The owner intention was to demolish the property, the new owner, excuse me, intention was to demolish the property, build a brand new house for speculative sale purposes. So based on that information, as I said earlier, several drive-by visits of me to see if anyone would ever return, I filed the challenge.
Thank you. Any questions for the witness? Nothing from the board? All right, very good. We'll probably bring you back up on your other ones if we need to, but at the moment, we'll just deal with these two.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Has staff confirmed what Mr. Janis has told us today?
As far as a site visit, no.
Okay.
We have not completed a site visit.
Do we typically do site? I know we've done a bunch of these. I can never.
Not typically when there is, when an elector has filed the challenge, then typically we take the sworn testimony of the challenger. When we conduct site visits is when we've received a report from another government agency that a building has been demolished or something to that effect, then we conduct the site visits.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Janus, you indicated that other people told you of their interaction with the current owner and that their plans were to demolish this building and build a new speculative home.
Yes.
You didn't have those conversations yourself, did you? You weren't on the site talking to the new owner?
Correct,
were you?
correct.
Okay, so you heard this
Yes.
from, so this is hearsay on hearsay, I would imagine. I don't know if that really matters,
But
but.
my hearsay was direct to me. I mean, so. in
I
other words, they
understand,
told-
yeah, and I'm not challenging the legitimacy of this. I just, from a procedural standpoint for us, you've driven by there yourself,
Yes.
and you've looked in the windows.
I have not gone up to the house, but I've driven by, and you can see from car level when you're driving by, there's no furniture, there's no shades, no curtains, and there's no, it's empty.
And you've seen no people in there either,
Correct.
correct? And we sent a notice to these people at this address and have got no return, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Janus?
No, sir.
On this particular one, anything else, Chuck, for the board to
Yes, sir,
consider?
nothing else.
Is there a motion?
I will move that we uphold the challenge. As is our normal practice, that doesn't remove them from the roles as registered voters. It simply means if they attempt to vote from this address, they're going to have to offer some proof that they actually still live there, or alternatively, offer a new address. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's how he's, yep.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Did I hear the ayes?
Aye.
I didn't hear the votes, I'm sorry. The ayes have it. There are more challenges to go through, Mr. Eckert.
Yes, sir.
3 more, it looks like. Can I just jump right to the chase on this? Maybe we can keep it moving. There's just 3 more voters, right?
That is correct.
And all 3 of these voters, looks like they have already updated their registration forms, correct?
Correct. They submitted updates with the Milford BMV, which were then forwarded on to the Claremont County Board of Elections, and we received confirmation from Claremont County that they are in receipt of the address updates.
Yeah. This is Charles Tassel. He's well known to many of us. And as a matter of fact, he even alerted me, not in my capacity as a member of the board, but I suppose you could say that he did, that he was moving out of the county. And I think that even the topic of his changing his registration came up. I think the timing of it just is coincidental, frankly, with Mr. Janus's filing the challenge. But what we've done in the past is asked the challenger, I believe, to consider withdrawal given the information. So Mr. Janus, Mr. Tassel, as you probably know, is a longtime member of the Deer Park Council, somebody active in public and civic life, and he has updated his registration to the satisfaction of our board staff. Are you interested in withdrawing your challenge, sir?
I am.
Very good. Mr. Janus still under oath indicating he'll withdraw his challenge, so we'll dispose of that one.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have on voter challenges. August 20 special election ballot remakes. A little birdie told me there are none.
That's correct.
Hang on one second. Go ahead, Mr. Janus.
There's 2 other challenges with other members of the Tassel family.
Oh, I thought you were withdrawing as to all 3, no?
Yes, but the way you spoke, I thought it was just on Charles Tassel, the one you were talking about. So I will withdraw on all 3.
All 3, thank you. So it's clear. Little rusty at this chairman thing, so. All right, so all three are withdrawn, so the record's clear. Mr. Janis has indicated on the record he's withdrawing all three. On to ballot remakes. You indicated there were none, is that correct?
That's correct. As of this morning, there are no ballots that need to be remade.
So nothing else on that agenda item?
Correct.
All right. Next then is the August 2020 special election logic and accuracy testing.
Yes, you have a copy of those results in your board packets. It was conducted by bipartisan teams. This was our public test that was conducted last Thursday. The results are accurate.
It's always good. Do you need approval of that or just review it with us?
I believe it's just review.
Very good. We'll move past that, unless anybody has something. Okay, next then is the question of declaring the polls open in the city of Mount Healthy and the village of St. Bernard at 6:30 a.m. Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I will move that we declare the polls open
Is there
for
a
the
second?
special election.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is approval of the November 2020 presidential election ballot and provisional envelope quantities. And let's get lots.
Yes. Per Secretary of State directive, the board is required to approve this allocation in public session. We based the number of ballot quantities per precinct on 1% over the total number of registered voters in each precinct, and then rounded that up to the nearest 25 to allow for an increase in registration over the next 2 months. Provisional envelopes, we went above the Secretary of State's directive, which requires at least 15% more per precinct than provisionals cast in the last 3 presidentials. We upped that to 35% more.
Okay, okay.
I will move that we approve the ballot allocations for the November 3rd election
Ballot provisional envelope quantities?
and provisional envelopes, yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, okay. In terms of discussion, anything? So just so it's, you covered it, but want to make sure it's clear. We have more than one ballot per precinct in every precinct in Hamilton County by a percentage factor.
Correct. We did not discount for those that may request a by-mail ballot, even though we expect that to be heavy
Even if we have 100% turnout, we're, yeah,
in the polling place on Election Day. That's
which we're,
correct.
fortunately, we won't, but, okay. There's a motion and a second, and there's no additional discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is the November 2020 presidential election equipment allocation. Share anything we should know on that before we take a vote?
Yes, that summary is also provided in your packet, or that spreadsheet for the allocation. I do want to note that all of our polling locations the layout was redesigned by the polling location department to provide for 6-foot social distancing. They were able to allocate the same number of e-poll book check-in stations as previously allocated, which is good. Same with ballot scanners and our disabled access unit. However, in approximately 30 polling locations, there was a significant reduction in voting booths per those locations to allow for the social distancing. So we are scheduling a meeting with the County Public Health Department to help us review those layouts to see if perhaps there's some changes that we can make to allocate additional voting booths, so that basically this plan is still in progress, but you are required to adopt an initial version 90 days prior to Election Day, and then staff will present an updated version in a subsequent meeting.
Obviously different very different than our normal election. Any questions from anyone before we have a motion? Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the equipment allocation for the November 3rd election.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes carry the vote. Next is our personnel policy revision, section 6.2. Sherry, you want to bring us up to speed on that?
Yes, a red line copy is in your packet. This refers to section 6.2 6C. Basically, the change is just to conform the board's policy regarding seasonal employees eligible for health insurance to be determined by the Board of County Commissioners and based on their policy, since it's the commissioners that provide health insurance for employees.
Yeah, we have for a long time tried to mirror their policies, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I'll entertain a motion, then discussion. Is there a motion to adopt the small revision to section 6.2 of our personnel policy revision?
So
Or
moved.
personnel policy manual? Sorry.
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Fox, seconded by Mr. Gerhart. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next up is a 2021 proposed budget.
Yes, you have a copy of our 2021 proposed budget request in your packets. This budget was based on primarily looking back to similar elections in odd years. This is the budget we've proposed, but of course, our fiscal officer, along with the deputy director, and I will work with our budget analyst with the county and make adjustments as needed. But this is what we're proposing.
Why don't I entertain a motion in a second, then we'll have a discussion. Is there a motion to adopt the 2021 proposed budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any discussion, questions, thoughts? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda is an update on the November 2020 presidential election planning. And Sherry and Sally, I'll turn it over to you guys. Go ahead.
Yes, we have, obviously, planning is well underway and preparing for the November presidential. A few items we wanted to bring you up to date with. One is regarding Dropbox research. You have in your packet a listing of quotes that we obtained from 4 different manufacturers regarding the purchase of 4 additional drop boxes per the board's instructions at the last meeting. Also in your packet is an email dated Monday, July 20th that we received from Amanda Grangine, who's the Director of Elections with the Ohio Secretary of State. In that directive, she informed the boards that the Secretary's office has requested a legal opinion of the Attorney General. And also states the Board of Elections should take no action with regard to removing the current drop box that's outside of the board office or in placing additional drop boxes until we receive the opinion from the Attorney General. And then a copy of that request is also in your packet.
So, my understanding is that we've gotten the bids. We've done no investigation about finding potential locations. And if I understand it correctly, we stopped doing any further investigation based on that letter. Is that?
That's correct. We obtained the quotes and then we received the email from the Secretary of State.
Well, I have kind of a problem with that because I think what we were trying to do was investigate costs and feasibility so that if we get an affirmative decision on this subject, we're prepared to act, pull the trigger and go. If we haven't even done the cost and feasibility, that's going to create a delay. It's been 2 weeks now, I think, since that request went to the Attorney General. I have no idea. Maybe Kenny can update us as to when we might expect some resolution on that point. But I don't see any reason why we can't continue to follow through on the cost and feasibility aspect of this.
We kind of, I'm not clear on what hasn't been done that you would want done.
Pardon?
I'm not clear on what you would want to have done. We have at least costs. Feasibility would be, I would think that, by the way, that if we're going to have additional boxes, that would be some directive probably giving us some statewide direction. So I'm curious to know what hasn't happened that you think should. I'm not clear about it.
Well,
Maybe others
I
are.
think the original motion was to look at location. I specified 4 different locations. For example, we could be contacting the Anderson Township administration to see about the feasibility of locating a box there, and to look into, one of the things we're going to have to deal with here is 24-hour video monitoring of these locations. So that's over and above simply the cost of buying the boxes. And that's the piece that I would like to see us continue to move on as we await some decision from the Attorney General.
Well, Chip, do you have any thoughts? Because I have some.
Well, I'm looking at the July 20th email from Amanda Grandjean that states, boards of elections should take no action with regard to removing the drop box in place at your office or placing additional drop boxes elsewhere until we receive the opinion from the Attorney General.
I would take
Pretty
that.
clear.
I would take that to mean that we shouldn't be ordering boxes and, following through on placing those boxes. I don't think that covers simply investigating the cost and feasibility.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Fox, it says take no action. I mean, I stated my position when we initially voted on this. I urged us to ask for direction. That was not the choice of this board. And the response that we've gotten from the Secretary of State's office is crystal clear to me. So we might just have to agree to disagree on this one. Mr.
Yeah.
I have one other point is since we last discussed this whole thing, we have now seen a directive or an advisory from the post office telling people that they should expect 14 days to receive and return their ballot that's a pretty long period of time. And we also seen many stories now about slowdowns in post office service, which to me just means that this issue is even more pressing than it was when I brought it up in the first place. So, yeah, I understand you may have a different view of that, but I think our motion was to move on investigating cost and feasibility, and I don't see anything in this note from Amanda Grandjean that says we can't at least do that piece.
Well, I made a commitment to our chair that we wouldn't have any 2-to-1 votes, so we're going to try to avoid that if we can. With that being said, I'm going to make it of record now that when I voted with Mr. Fox and Chairman McFarland in the last meeting, after getting back to my office, I received an email that had been sent by the Ohio Democratic Party Chairman, David Pepper, who we all know, advising fellow Democrats to press this question of drop boxes. I was disappointed to see that the Ohio Democratic Party chairman had influenced our board and other boards across the state to make this issue very political. I don't want to suggest I regretted my vote, because my vote was to investigate this question. I think that our board is inside of 90 days from what probably will be the most difficult, challenging election of all of our lives. So to press our board staff further on this issue when they've got so many other things to do, when we've got what seems to me to be fairly clear guidance from the state's top elections official, doesn't make a lot of sense. So again, I respectfully disagree that they haven't done enough, essentially, as I think your position is. They've done some, and if we are in fact ordered to do drop boxes, or if we are given the freedom to determine for ourselves, I think we're down that path. We've got the names of vendors, we've got some ideas, and then we can decide where they go and what the security looks like, again, if we're forced to do such a thing. And do what Chairman David Pepper wants us to do, then we'll find out. But I mean, at this juncture, I think the board's done plenty, and I'm not, again, I don't want to revisit the vote. I see, frankly, if our chairman were here, I might consider revisiting my vote, because I was disappointed to see that the Democratic Party chairman had pressed this issue politically across the state. I just simply wanted us to have options, and that's why again, just from a good government perspective, I thought it made some sense to take a look. So that's my view of it. Again, I don't want to force us into a vote today in any capacity if we need to come back and have a vote on this topic. But again, I hope we can just agree that at this point we disagree as what the board staff has done, and then frankly probably fight about it later, because I'm guessing we're going to head that direction. That's what I've got for you.
I'm not suggesting that we make a motion today, and I'm not doing that. I'm just raising this question. And, you mentioned how close we are to Election Day. So this is a matter of timeliness. This is not something we can just do, instantly. If we get an opinion from the Attorney General that we can do this, I just think we need to follow through and be prepared. And that's the point I was trying to make. Obviously, we do need to wait, and I'd be interested if Kenny can tell us anything about that. But
Yeah, I was going to put you in our other business section, Kenny, so you're welcome to enlighten us.
I honestly don't have an update yet. As of Friday, we still hadn't been told anything new, but I will inquire and let Sally and Sherry know. Today, I'll inquire with the Elections Division and see if they anticipate some type of answer this week.
okay.
Just, again, I'm always trying as best we can to reach some level of compromise. I mean, I think that your concerns have certainly been heard by the board staff. They've been heard by us. And, I would just ask staff without asking for any kind of response. I mean, if in fact we find ourselves, because of a directive, a court order, or even board action, that we are to implement additional boxes, that, the board staff is kind of on notice that it's a concern. Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We're still technically on item number, 8, the presidential election planning. You covered drop boxes. Anything else on that topic?
Yeah, we have a few other things. We are finalizing our plans for our early vote center. If you recall, that'll be going on the same campus, just in the building right next door to us. And this staff has worked on doing layouts for that location as well. And we're able to have 30 check-in stations, so we're happy about that. And while maintaining 6-foot social distancing. So we're very fortunate to have that space.
How does that compare,
become
Sherry?
available.
Curious as to.
If we would have had to conduct in person in our current space with the 6-foot social distancing, I think it was down to 12, Jeremy, is that correct? Yeah.
So more than doubled our capacity there. That's
Right.
good. Good for voters.
Yes. Give you an update by mail voting. We've already received over 13,000 absentee applications for the November election. Processing is ongoing. We are under contract with our print vendor, MCR, not only to print our precinct ballots, but they are also going to print and assemble our absentee packets. They did this for us during the extended election. That allowed us to have a turnaround time of approximately 24 hours from the day we received the application to when we were able to place the package back in the mail, about a day. So we're hoping to be able and have plans and are working with them to hopefully keep up that process through November, of course, with the exception of Sundays. We are still actively recruiting additional seasonal staff, our extras. I think right now we have about 75% of those positions filled. So we are advertising on our website. I know something went out through the party, at least I think on the Republican Party, as we have a few more openings than on the Democratic side. So we're still actively recruiting our seasonal staff. As far as our poll workers, we have those positions about 48% filled. So of course we're still actively recruiting for poll workers, and actually Sally has an update on our latest recruitment efforts.
Right, so in addition to the Partners in Democracy, we're doing a couple sort of partners in democracy, one of which is with Matry Brewing Company. The other thing that we're doing is really trying to contact a lot of the social service groups about our Devoted to Service program. We Zoomed our Youth at the Booth presentation so that if remote learning is going into place, we'll be able to Zoom to high school seniors for the Youth at the Booth program. And then we've been talking with the other two big counties in the state of Ohio and bouncing around different ideas. And in Franklin County, they approached sports figures to do some PSAs on registering to vote, on voting absentee, and becoming a poll worker, and just generally voting. So I attached some scripts that we've put out to our sports figures or sports organizations. We already have FC signed on, and that's kind of the mock-up. And what the sports person will do is film a script and with their own phone, and then send it to us, and we'll put it up on our social media. So FC signed on. I've made contacts with the Bengals and the Reds, and so waiting to hear back from them as well. So again, trying to implement everywhere we can the approach to poll workers. I do monitor our contact us on our website, and we are at least getting 1 or 2 a day that are saying we want to be a poll worker. I know that they're getting some outreach in our poll worker department as well from the Secretary of State site and from general calling. So we're working hard on that.
Excellent.
I just also wanted to mention, we have received 2 directives from the Secretary of State's office, 2 recent directives that did provide some funding for conducting the presidential election. One is funding from the CARES Act. The other is HAVA grant funding that would allow us to approve accessibility to voting as well as some security points. As far as accessibility, we're planning on using those funds to make our sample ballots accessible from our website. And then we have some other plans, and we're consulting with local law enforcement regarding the security procedures. Regarding the funding for the CARES Act, we did receive $101,000 for that. We estimate that that will cover about half the cost of the additional costs of conducting this election during COVID. So it is quite an expense.
700,001.
700,001. Yeah, did I say 7? Yeah, 700,001. Thanks for the clarification. And we have also developed our needs for PPE for early voting, staffing, and on election day. We are currently seeking quotes and ordering a number of those supplies we already have on hand, which is good. And then we're also working with the Secretary of State's office as they're assisting in allocating some of those, or obtaining some of those resources. And then I think, Sally, you have an update on new registrations?
We're monitoring really closely how many absentee requests we get in. We're monitoring how many absentee requests we're sending out. And then we have been looking at all of the various new registrations only. This does not include change of address. But in June, we received about 1,700 new registrations. In July, we received about 1,000. So we haven't seen a dramatic increase, but again, that's only new registrations.
You suggested earlier we had 13,000, give or take, already, absentee requests already here. Does that, historically, how does that compare? Drastically higher?
Drastically higher.
Yeah.
Drastically higher.
Right.
Yes.
It's 13,700, and we're trying to stay up. I mean, obviously, we're behind today, but it's pretty amazing.
So it'll be a big by mail vote, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else before I let the board see if they've got any questions?
I think not from staff. No.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Sherry, I think I've heard that in comments to the press that you've indicated you believe we might very well see as many as 400,000 absentee requests. Is that?
We are planning for that. We actually upped it to 500,000. We decided it would be best to have enough resources on hand to conduct the election, all vote by mail, or everyone appearing in the polling place, since this is an election like no other. So that's as far as the resources that we are obtaining. We're obtaining enough to do that. This is ballot stock absentee envelopes, things of that nature. So if they're not used in this election, they can be used in 2021.
Right. I was just trying to get a handle on.
It's difficult to predict. We don't have a history of conducting a presidential election during a pandemic, so we just want to be prepared
Right.
for everything.
Absolutely.
And just to highlight another number, you said about 48% of our poll worker needs are filled. That's party-wide, right? That's without getting to specific parties, but we're about halfway there.
Halfway there,
Yeah.
correct.
So that's something the public needs to hear, and that is that we need you to help us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have, 46 full-time staff. It requires thousands more to help us pull this off. So we need poll workers,
Yes.
and we'll make it safe.
Yes.
We'll make it safe. And we're all working together to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We could do the same type of thing with the board members in terms of you shooting a video saying that and putting it up on our social media. If you would want to do that, that'd be great.
Anything I know I can do, I know Gwen's not here. I would suggest she's on board, and she and I have done some of that already, and I would do that with our former colleague. So anything we can do that you guys suggest, I'll make it a priority. I know how important this is, so.
Agreed. Mr. Chair, since we are live streaming out, why don't you remind the voters sort of what the dates are that are coming before us? You can request an absentee ballot now. When will they get it? When does early
Absolutely.
voting start? I think we should do that every time.
Sure. We're accepting absentee applications now. They are available on our website or by calling the board at 632-7000, and we will mail an application to them. The Ohio Secretary of State will also be mailing an application to every registered voter the week of Labor Day, so voters should look for those in the mail. We will begin mailing absentee ballots on October 6th. So if you apply now, you'll be one of the first to get your ballots on October 6th. Absentee in-person voting also begins on that day, October 6th. The deadline currently to turn in the application is noon on Saturday, October 31st. But we highly recommend voters submit those applications at least 1 week prior to Election Day. Although the law allows for noon on Saturday before that, it's extremely difficult for that ballot to be moved through the mail by the deadline. So we recommend they apply at least 1 week prior to Election Day. Any ballots that are received by 7:30 p.m. on Election Day, November 3rd, will be included in the unofficial count that occurs election night. Ballots that are postmarked on or before November 2nd and received by the board by November 13th will be included in the official count, which occurs 2 to 3 weeks after Election Day.
Thank you.
And we also remind voters that once they get their ballot, they should vote it and get the ballot back to us as soon as possible. We've had some people think that they have to wait till the last day to bring their ballot to the board office, and they don't need to do that. They can bring it to our secure 24-hour drive-through drop box or put postage on it and get it back to us.
That's a good point. We do encourage voters to vote their ballot and return it as soon as possible. It will help with our resources here so that we don't have a big influx right in those final days. It would help if voters return those as soon as possible.
Great. Anything else on the November 2020 presidential election planning update? All right, we'll move on to other business on our agenda. Kenny, anything you want to add other than you already have? Thanks for being here.
One quick question. Do you have any sense of what's going on with the legislature? Sherry mentioned this deadline for applying for an absentee, which right now is the Saturday noon on the Saturday prior to Election Day. And given the scale of what we're possibly dealing with, if that deadline remains, we could have some real problems. And the legislation, as I understand it right now, would include shifting that deadline back further from Election Day so that we don't get slammed quite so badly.
You are correct, and I'm not sure what is going on in the Senate or House right now. The Senate didn't act on House Bill 680 by July 28th, which would have been the 90-day deadline for the law to go into effect by the election. So I'm not sure what they'll be doing moving forward.
So if they don't act by the 90-day deadline, does that mean they can't act?
I think they can act by emergency, but I'm not sure of their processes, honestly.
Mr. Chair, Caleb,
Yeah.
90 days out would have allowed it to go into effect by Election Day without an emergency clause. They would need a supermajority to pass it with an emergency clause after that date. So they could still act on this, and if they received enough votes, then it would go into effect. But I think there's some debate whether or not they've got the number of votes to do it by emergency.
Thank you.
It's just frustrating. Here we have a very difficult election, and the legislature has basically not done anything pertaining to this election this year. But it's beyond our control.
That last sentence we agree with. Anything else, other business-wise? Mr. Stevenson, you've been entirely too quiet. Anything? All right, thank you.
Nothing.
Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to stand in recess? Again, we're not adjourning, we're staying in recess for the election tomorrow.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.